I think it's so interesting the way that I look throughout my own sketchbook and stuff to like really see what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking about in my artwork. So hi, my name is Ash, Ashley, but Ash for short, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a person of Tkaronto, so I've been and raised here, and I'm Toronto based for my artwork. And you would call me interdisciplinary artist, not multi, but interdisciplinary. So as all of the artists have known in our community, that the pandemic has definitely hit our minds a little differently. So I didn't really have a sketchbook on hand when I was in the pandemic. So I decided to make these prints about things that I was thinking about per day. And that's how it came into fruition. So the pandemic series is about different type of topics. So either about like queer identity or self-image, body image, also moving out and change. There was multiple different things that I was thinking about through going through the pandemic that I wouldn't necessarily have time to think about. And then I put it all on paper, and it kind of came over time for a couple of months. And then it was a series of the 3. My history of sketchbooks have happened since I was a younger child. It was always something that I kind of was drawn to. I would draw in them for hours until my mom would tell me to get out of them because I wouldn't focus on other things because I was just so drawn into them. And then over time, I started sculpting a little more, and my sketchbook wasn't as used until I went to OCAD University, and this became my journal. It became like everything that I would do. It has all my observational things that I would see in my life. It has all of the ways that I think, jotted down in notes, jotted down in visual representation. And it's just more about how I'm reflecting upon my own thoughts and feelings, and then how I put that into the world and how I want other people to see my authentic self. Well, first of all, I have to bless OCAD University because it's given me the opportunity to make work outside of such a small medium. But more of my personal work is not less explorative, but less involved with finding new mediums to create. It's more of what do I have on hand? I use anything and everything that I have. So if it's Dollarama paint, I'm putting Dollarama paint into my sketchbook. If I have markers that I've had for over years, I'm using that. I also have a Muji pen that I've literally taped multiple times to keep using in my sketchbook. That's the difference. Whereas OCAD, I have more fabrication things that I like to do, and I have more options in front of me. So I feel a little bit more inclined to either buy like new creative materials to use. Not to say that that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's kind of just different processes for different places, and also accessibility. Especially with the pandemic, I haven't had a lot of accessibility to shops and things. Even the place where I reside, I have like wood shops and things, but they're closed. So that's more of the differences of the processes. But I do enjoy being explorative when I am able to, of course. So as a queer person, I find that my identity doesn't have to do with everything that I create, and it doesn't always have to be touched upon. And I know that sounds a little odd, but for me, as a queer being, my art will always identify as a queer piece of work because I am queer. So it's not necessarily that I'm talking about the queer experience and everything that I create, but it's about me as a queer person in that experience. I find that my artwork has improved from my confidence because I have more time to work through it, and it's also not for my university. So I took a year off, and I was making a lot of artwork for OCAD. So now that I'm within my self-practice, I'm realizing accessibility issues, and that when I'm stuck in between a spot, I always adapt to where I am. So a lot of my artwork has been drawing and painting, even though I used to say that drawing and painting wasn't my favorite medium to do. Well, drawing was, but painting wasn't. And now it's mostly what I do. So I think that's really an interesting shift. Also with the pandemic, it's taught me a lot about like self-preservation, about like emotions and about feelings and protecting those things. And I'm finding ways to fall in love with myself through my artwork, if that makes sense. So when I come here, this is actually the spot that I mostly draw in the sketchbook. I find myself spending and enjoying more of the time with my artwork when I'm here and involved in my thoughts and involved in my inspiration around me than if I was at school and doing multiple other things and working. And of course, like the pandemic was horrible for all of us, but it kind of had a couple of these spots that I felt positive and good because I was able to really give myself time to think about the way that I was creating and what I was creating. I guess the last things that I can say is that thank you, one, for this opportunity. This was lovely to chat with all of you. And second of all, no matter what, as an artist in the pandemic or not, if you're being creative, then amazing, and keep doing you and keep pushing through, but also don't hark on yourself if you haven't been making any work in the pandemic, because I find that the art will come through when it does, and that's it. Like, don't rush yourself into it because we have time. It's better to have time for yourself and to work on yourself first, so then you're able to make the artwork that you want to make versus pushing yourself into space that's more for healing rather than for being productive. Because artwork shouldn't be productive. Artwork should just be about, not always about healing, but it is a healing process. So let it be that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you so much.